Hello again and welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony.
And I'm Raymond Peterson.
And that was a relatively cold open because we're taping the Thursday before our normal air date, and that happens to be the same day that the Queen of Soul and of just about every other genre of music passed away. So guys, Aretha.
I mean, that was a good clip because she brought in that level of energy to whatever production she was in. I mean, you felt her presence. You knew she was there to, with the power, and the soul was in her music.
Right, and she was able to take some cover songs and make them into hits, which I found. Everything she did, she lent a certain dynamism to. She had an energy that was unsurpassed at the time.
Yeah, the interesting thing for me is I actually was hoping we could have found a video clip of her doing Young, Gifted, and Black, or failing that, a clip of her doing A Change Is Gonna Come, precisely because in this day and age that we're living in, the only person that could have bumped Omarosa off the front burner of all of the major media and non-major media, despite the orange monster in the White House trying to dissemble with the John Brennan case, was the passing of the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. Because Aretha's father, C.L. Franklin, was a major instigator, leader in the civil rights movement, even though most folk don't realize it. But best friends with Adam Clayton Powell Jr., Martin Luther King, you name it, every major civil rights leader and icon he knew and supported. I think King spent, anytime he went to Detroit, guess whose home he stayed with? C.L. Franklin. Yeah. So Aretha's family were always in the forefront of the civil rights movement. She was a teenager, wasn't she, Ray? When she went on the road with King?
She 17, 16, 17. Yeah.
So even as a teenager, I think she asked her dad if it was okay she could travel with Dr. King. And her father said, yeah, well, if that's what you want to do, I think that'd be fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, civil rights, Aretha Franklin, C.L. Franklin. I went to see a movie last weekend. It's called The BLACKkKLANSMAN. And the fact that The BLACKkKLANSMAN was timed to come out on the anniversary of the Charlottesville Tiki Torch March by the what's that group called? The right to white, the whites right, the right, whatever they're called. The fact that Spike timed his movie to come out on that anniversary, once I read the reviews, because I actually saw the movie before I read the reviews, the powerful movie, I recommend it to everybody in our viewing audience. Once I read the reviews, I understood, because not to give away any spoilers or anything, he manages to put Birth of a Nation and Gone with the Wind in the proper perspective as how detrimental it has been over at least a century to the well-being of black people and to the rise and growth of organizations like the KKK. And so Spike's movie comes out on the anniversary of Charlottesville. Omarosa times, note this, she times the release of her book Unhinged. That's the title of Omarosa Manigault Newman book about her time in the Trump White House on the anniversary of the Charlottesville Tiki Torch March and the death of Heather Heyer. That's what we should be actually talking about. Not the anniversary of those white crazies marching, but the anniversary of young Heather Heyer losing her life when one of those cuckoos drives through a crowd with a car.
And her mother's been very active in the last week, making appearances, making sure that her daughter's name wasn't lost in the shuffle, because like you said, it easily could have been. And she's wanted to push the legacy.
She's smart to do that, because you're right, it could be easily lost, and almost has been, except for her mother basically.
Well, one of the reasons I want to make sure I made Heather Heyer's name become more significant than the right neo-Nazis, people whose name my brain will not let me remember because
I can't
my
remember
brain just does not like to deal with negativity. But Heather Heyer's name comes to the forefront and will stay in the forefront. But let's double back a little bit, because we had some discussions in the last day or two about the fact that we don't necessarily want to publicize Omarosa's book, because Omarosa is not anybody that's ever been anything worth our time.
She's a product of the swamp.
Within the context, let's talk about her being a product of the swamp and how she's using the swamp techniques.
Well, it's
actually
working very well for her.
So
I think it's interesting that, you know, one weasel can't spot another weasel. Here, he trusts everybody who bows down to him, regardless. With whatever he doesn't even know what their intentions may be. As long as they're praising him, they get security clearances. They're his buddy. They get jobs in the White House. This, that, and the other. But he doesn't perceive that these people are just as devious, just as backhanded as he is. And good for Omarosa. I mean, as you say, she does not have a good reputation because she comes from that same environment. She's cut from the same cloth. But those techniques has allowed her to get the goods on this guy. I mean, she's got those tape recorders. You can't refute those. Even if you think that she's a disgruntled employee, she does have those tapes.
Yeah, she and Trump are purveyors of the same exact skills, just what you were saying.
Yeah.
They both know how to put the knife in the back. They both know how to undercut. They both know how to throw people under the bus. They do it very effectively. She's going to do it in the book. It's, like you said, it's timed very well. I'm actually not so sure that she was smart enough to time it this way. I think her PR people did the work for her.
No.
You think she
Listen, I don't watch reality TV show, but our great resource person, Pearl Duncan, who's a cultural maven who keeps on top of this stuff, she brought a couple of things to my attention. She said, think about this. Omarosa spent 14 years with Donald Trump, okay? Now, she started out as his protege on The Apprentice.
That's been 14 years?
Well, it's been a long time, but 14 is the word, the number that sticks in my brain. And I know Pearl knows her numbers quite well. And on The Apprentice, they say, White House people, she got fired 3 times. Pearl says, flip that script. She didn't get fired 3 times. She got hired 3 times. And she got hired 3 times because Omarosa has every right to say what evidently she's been saying in the last day or two. Without me, there's no Donald Trump and there's no Apprentice. And that's because, as Pearl pointed out to me, because I don't watch that stuff, no villain, no show. No, Omarosa was the quintessential villain of their first Apprentice.
There was money to be made.
The first season would have never gone anywhere without her being that villain. So she made that show. When they fired her, show tanked in the ratings. Guess what? They hired her again. Did well for them again. I guess she may have pissed them off one more time. They fired again. What happened? Show tanked. What did they do? Hired her again. See, 3 times. So what Omarosa is saying, no me, no Apprentice, no Donald Trump. And what Omarosa learned from working with Donald Trump that closely is he tapes everybody.
Oh, does he? Okay.
That didn't just come from Omarosa. That came from the guy who wrote his book, The Art of the Donald, or the whatever. They say this guy tapes everything, which is why his so-called lawyer, Michael Cohen, what did he do? He taped his own client, including Donald Trump. And where did they get the perspicacity to do that? From the, quote, taper-in-chief. So Omarosa is no dummy, as far as I can tell. Even though I don't like her personally and haven't seen what I've seen of her personality, rubs me the wrong way. But she came out of at least one historically black college with a pretty decent degree. She got a master's from some other one,
Oh, I don't think she's a
and she has a
dummy.
doctor of divinity or something or other. I just
Doctor of
discovered she's a
divinity?
minister. I had no
Really?
clue. She's
Okay.
see, I don't follow these reality
neither do
TV
I.
people.
I've
I
never
don't know
seen
what's going on in their
Shark
lives,
Tank
but
or whatever
but
it
we
is.
call ourselves Media Watch. We have to be up on the media. But Pearl's been keeping up for us. But to get off of Omarosa as being two peas in a pod with Donald Trump, or being smart enough and shrewd enough to understand that in the swamp that she is swimming in, she needs all kinds of backup
Right.
and proof for anything she's going to say. And lo and behold, folk, as you can tell, every other day, Omarosa drops another tape.
And now I can't wait to see what else she has in her little bag of tricks.
And she's very effective.
I mean, she must have, because I don't think she just started taping him. I would think that she has done this all along, just in case. Because the guy's going to stab you in the back sooner or later, so if you're going to dance with this guy, you ought to have some sort of protection.
And that's what Michael Cohen said.
Yeah.
That's what Michael Cohen did. So to get off Omarosa, but to actually stick to the central theme, because Omarosa, I would have said, is just another bauble in the stupidity and the swampness. But within the context of stuff that she dropped, it brought it right back to the vortex of the true story that's been swirling around. In one of her interviews on one of the talk shows, I think it was one of the MSNBC shows, I think it was Katie Torr. Katie Torr asked her something or other about the emails, and Omarosa's answer was, yeah, he knew about the Clinton emails before the emails broke. Now, that is the core of the Russia investigation.
Sure.
Who's colluding and who's not colluding, who knew what, when. And so for me, the two national security things that are crucial, because for me, that's the main story, it's been the main story since this Russian thing broke, is how could Omarosa be taping all these crazy people in situation rooms and stuff in the White House? What kind of security do they have among their people? She's walking around with tape recorders, taping everybody left and right. That's one. and has a security clearance, too, to boot.
Absolutely.
And two, if indeed the national security thing is at the heart of the matter, then what are they going to do about the fact that this guy knew about the emails and was colluding with the Russians ahead of time, because that's what she said he was doing? That's the one nugget that she dropped that I think is germane to the big story.
Right. But you're talking about national security, and Sanders is talking about her, recording in the Situation Room, things like Trump, once again, you can look directly at Trump for setting the tone.
That's
I
true.
mean,
That's true.
He's had private meetings with the heads of state of Russia and North Korea, with no one else present, no notes taken.
Right.
I mean, he's talking about the situation with Russia, with people down in Mar-a-Lago. I mean, come on, where's the national security there?
Well, you
Trump
raise a good point, Bob. Wasn't it? Which one of the shows were we talking about on Media Watch when this guy actually brought the Russians in and actually gave them top secret Israeli information, intelligence stuff, just flat out, right? Just gave it to them.
You're allowed to organize when you become president, you get to organize your White House. You get to run it the way you think you want to run it. You get to set your levels of security. And he has proven to be thoroughly inept at understanding the whole concept of national security. He has just proven to be unable to understand what he's doing when, just as you say, he meets with leaders in private. He hands over papers. The Israeli, we talked about that a while ago, didn't we?
Yes, we did. We talked about it on Media Watch.
But it was a few.
It was a while back.
Yeah,
but
I thought so.
But it was just so blatant and just so. I mean, just to invite them in and just give them the stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like. But anyway, you don't worry about national security when you're already in the pocket of your major enemy and you're already an asset for them. So why are we worrying about national security? We called him a Manchurian candidate during the run-up to the election.
Yes.
After he got elected, we watched all his actions, came right out and said, this man's a Russian asset. He's not in the interest of our country. he might be sitting in the White House. He may nominally be, well, not quite elected president, because I believe all that collusion and all that stuff means he didn't really get elected legally and properly. But that'll come out in the wash eventually. But the bottom line is, that's not the guy who's protecting this country. So what does he care about national security stuff? He's already given away the trade secrets because he's already making behind the deal. He's got a secret meeting with Putin that not even his national intelligence people is, not even his CIA chief, not even his Secretary of State. Nobody's in the meeting with this guy.
And those are the experts. Those are the people you need to understand what's going on in the room.
But they're not going to be around because they're all losing their security clearances and or being fired.
No, the previous guys who would be the ones who could warn you about that guy are the ones he's now stripping the security clearance. But of course, as we all know, that was the ploy to get Omarosa off the front pages and off the cable talk shows.
Exactly.
And it may have worked for about 4 hours. I think.
You're right.
And then it was back to what is going on? Because guess what, folks? As we are taping on this Thursday, I believe the jury in the Paul Manafort case, which is the former chairman of the election committee for the guy that's in the White House, his case for bank fraud and what's the other charge? Not quite money laundering, but something close to it.
I was going to
it's
say
bank fraud and a related crime has gone to the jury, and the jury will probably be deliberating between now and next week. By the time we air, they may have actually come out with a verdict.
I just checked. They're still. The jury's still out.
Still deliberating.
Still out.
So on this Thursday that we're taping, the jury is deliberating, and of course, this is not a special counsel investigation. It was referred to the Virginia district by the special counsel when he discovered these crazy shenanigans, and so it's going to be interesting to see what comes out. I'm making this prediction because I like to predict occasionally when I think I'm going to be correct, and I think Mr. Manafort is going to be found guilty, if not on all counts, on the majority of counts. And if he gets found guilty on the majority of counts, he's going to be facing serious jail time.
But we were talking, you and I were talking about whether or not there's a possibility that Trump would, forgive his crimes. Pardon him, rather, yes. Right. Now, and you think, because I think that Manafort's got a whole bag full of secrets, and you think that he's holding on to them because he thinks that he will be pardoned. But now, I just read something this morning that Giuliani says, well, I can't quote him directly, but I'll paraphrase him. He was saying that they didn't want to get anywhere near a pardon.
Well, see, it's coming out of Giuliani's mouth.
Anything Rudolph Giuliani said.
Oh, I know.
You just throw that in the trash can. His job is to obfuscate and confuse.
I know.
They didn't hire him to lawyer. They hired him to go out into the
do
public
what he does best.
and obfuscate and confuse.
He does that marvelously.
And he's great at it. The guy's doing it. I mean, Donald Trump owes this man millions of dollars because he has totally muddied the waters quite successfully.
Right.
What we're hoping is that, despite the fact that he's muddied the waters, that the special counsel is putting his ducks in a row. And to get back to your pardon thing, if he gets convicted on this one, he faces another trial in D.C.
I think he does.
And so. And we don't know. Who knows? He could be pardoned.
Well,
but
we don't know
the
what
guy
else
who's going to pardon him might also end up going down the tubes.
Yes.
But as ridiculous as a pardon sounds, it is in the realm of possibility.
It's in the realm of
which
possibility.
With any other president would be obscene, but it doesn't.
We know that's probably something that's being planned down the road. That's another prediction that I'd be almost happy to predict, just because this guy thinks like that, and he thinks he can get away with that. So no surprise if he tries to pardon everybody from Roger Stone, who hasn't been charged yet. That's the other part of this shoe that's waiting to drop. And we'll get into Roger Stone and the special counsel, I'm sure, at another show.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
We have about eight minutes.
Anyhow, his removing Brennan's clearance. You think that this is just
the red herring thing?
Yeah. Right.
But there's some significance to that. Let's discuss that.
Okay.
The taking away of former CIA chiefs security
Well, that
clearance.
goes further to just tarnish their credibility. They're, what did he say about him?
Oh yeah, he was
he's,
making up incendiary charges,
know.
baseless charges about the administration. That was a paraphrasing
Yeah.
of Sarah Huckabee Sanders' quote.
As long as you're predicting, I think she's out in like 90 days. I think as soon as the elections hit, she's out. I mean, I don't think she can take this.
I don't know.
I make no predictions on Huckabee Sanders. I'll make predictions
I
on
wonder.
pardons,
Okay.
and I'll make predictions on jury verdicts,
Okay.
but not on Huckabee Sanders.
Okay.
Because I would have never thought that she would actually stand up and do that last bold-faced lie
Yeah.
that she
Oh.
did last week.
Yeah.
Remind our viewers what that big lie was, because I just can't.
Well, which one?
Well, the chief among them.
She did have a very big lie last week, and I don't remember exactly what it was. I've heard so many of them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I shouldn't have raised it.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, which one? No, but you're right. There was a really big one last week. She just came out and said no.
Well,
no,
there was
no.
the issue
There
of
was the
black-
N-word.
of the N-word.
Yeah,
and then
but
there
there was one even prior to the N-word.
There was the N-word. There was the thing about black employment. There was
Yes,
there was
the black employment one that Bloomberg blew out of the water.
right.
Yeah.
So I mean,
But let's not confuse
let's
our
not-
viewers.
Sure.
The black employment was Huckabee Sanders said more blacks got more jobs than any other president except Donald Trump has done more for blacks.
Right.
And Bloomberg said, real deal is, folks, black has less numbers of jobs during this new jobless rate than anybody else. So when Huckabee Sanders says it's up, you know it's down.
Right.
Because she's Donald Trump's personified. She will tell his lie. The one lie she did not tell, which surprised everybody, was when the reporter for MSNBC, Christian Welker, said, can you guarantee that there isn't a tape somewhere that Donald Trump has used the N-word somewhere, blah, blah, blah. And Huckabee Sanders, who lies like
A rug.
I expected her to say, yeah, I can guarantee that, but she didn't say that. She says, I can guarantee nothing.
Yeah, well,
and everybody almost fell out of their chairs in the
Yes.
briefing room.
Yes. Yes.
They couldn't believe she said that. So even Huckabee Sanders actually believes there's a tape somewhere.
Yes.
That's why she said, I can guarantee nothing.
And she's sharp enough to cover her own hindquarters because she doesn't want to, at the end, sooner or later she'll be out of this job and she'll have to answer for it.
But at the end of the day, as I heard somebody else say on TV, but he's saying exactly what we're all thinking.
Okay.
Black people don't need a tape of Donald Trump using the N-word, because we know he uses that word left and right. Anybody that would call a black female that used to work for him for 14 years a lowlife and a dog,
Yeah.
has nothing but racial animus towards people of color. And guess what? Why are we surprised? The man came down the escalator to announce his presidency, and he blithely said Mexicans are rapists.
Yes.
So folks, what more do you need to hear from this man? He publicly
Keeps saying
tells you
rapists.
all of his racist thoughts by expressing them in public. So what's a private tape gonna prove?
Yeah, really. I mean, I don't think anybody's surprised, and I don't know anybody per se that's waiting for that tape to appear, because, as you say, you don't really need that tape to know. Don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, my man.
I mean, if I actually heard the tape of him saying it, it actually wouldn't lower my estimation for him.
He's already deep in the
I
hole.
wouldn't actually think any less.
I mean, it's
He's already deep
you
in
know,
the hole.
yeah.
To bring it back to the bigger story, as opposed to all these little things about did he use the N-word or did he not use the N-word?
And we have about
Because
3 minutes.
Yeah, because for me, my thinking is always, where do we stand on the true issue? And the true issue is there was a cyber attack on this country by the Russians that was definitively proven by all our intelligence services. And they flat out said we need to do something about it. And as a result, they started to do something about it, and then the FBI got into it, and the president didn't like what the FBI was doing on it. They fired the FBI director. And that probably was obstruction of justice, and that's probably being investigated by Robert Mueller. But all the smoke screen that Giuliani's putting up and all that stuff is to muddy the waters of public opinion so that when Mueller's stuff comes home and he writes whatever report he's going to write, that probably he's going to say, yes, there was collusion, yes, there was a conspiracy, because that is the legal term that he is putting his bricks in the wall of confinement up. When that comes out, then what is this Congress going to do, and will this guy get impeached or not impeached?
Right. Well, impeached. Well, impeachment is one thing. I mean, Clinton was impeached. That didn't remove him from office.
No. You have to try him. That's what the impeachment is. But then you have to come in with a verdict. That's what the Senate does.
Which they didn't get.
Yeah,
right.
That's exactly right.
Right. And there has to be an actionable offense.
High crimes and misdemeanors.
Yeah,
I know.
But
guess who determines high crimes and misdemeanors?
Treason.
The Congress, does. Well, that's a high crime and misdemeanor. Yeah. And if you prove there was collusion and conspiracy, that's treason.
Right.
That's not a problem. The question is, how do you? I think that's what they're going about doing now. The question is, how do you get that trial once they prove it?
And the votes aren't there anyway.
Well,
right
how
now.
do you get that trial? Well, you're talking about the Supreme Court.
We're talking about the midterm elections. That's what we're talking about.
Well, yeah,
that's what we're talking about.
And if that turns the page,
I'm not all
then they have
that
a problem.
optimistic about the midterm elections.
No. I'm not optimistic about anything. But here's the point. If you sit back and say I'm not optimistic, then you ain't gonna get anything done. If you say, well, we need to make this happen, well, guess what? You go out and you make it happen. You get people registered. You get people to vote for other people that don't think like the group that's in there right now. Those young people, I go back to Parkland.
30 seconds.
Those young people in Parkland, they said, we're gonna be a voting age come midterms. And guess what? Those people who love the NRA and don't want to do gun safety, we're going to vote you out of office. Well, you don't like what's going on in the current White House? You got to vote these other people out of office so we can change what's going on.
Absolutely.
So,
Stay tuned.
10 seconds.
Yeah.
This has been Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony.
And I'm Raymond Peterson.
And we'll catch you the next time.
You know I got it. Oh, that's good.